Well, hello everyone, and welcome back to Adrian's Digital Basement. On today's video, it's a midweek mini mail call. It's part 10, I think, which is kind of amazing because it feels like I just started doing these. Anyhow, today we're going to be talking about AppleTalk, a really cool, low-cost networking system that Apple developed for the original Macintosh. Let's get right to it. All right, we have another package, USPS, which means it comes from the US, and I got this on June 4th. As you can see, this came from Michael in Kansas. So hi to all my viewers from Kansas. Let's take a look at this. Oh yes, I can already see what this is, and I like it. Great packaging, Michael. Good idea to take a piece of cardboard and stick it in this padded envelope to prevent things from getting bashed up a little bit. Okay, this is very cool. What Michael has gone ahead and sent is the ModuNet II System, which is an AppleTalk compatible networking interface. Unlike the original Apple branded and Apple manufactured AppleTalk interfaces, which had a little box like this that plugged in the back of your classic Mac, that stuff used proprietary cabling. It was like a DIN connector, and you had to connect each of the computers together with it. It was kind of expensive. Soon after that came out, these types of systems came out that used regular phone wire. Now, what I don't know is how compatible this particular brand is, ModuNet II System, with other AppleTalk compatible interfaces that also use phone wires. Are they interoperable? Do they use the same pinout? I don't know. We're going to have to try. But let's take a closer look at this on the bench. All right, so here's the packaging close up. The ModuNet II System, 8-pin mini DIN AppleTalk compatible. 99 cents. So clearly this was on clearance. I wonder what store this is actually from. I think Michael told me in an email that he found this originally at a thrift store. I'm going to cut open this very yellowed packaging, which is already kind of falling apart, so we can take a close look at this paper back here. So there's a close-up of the price tag in case anyone recognizes what store this is from. You can definitely tell that this blister packaging is quite yellowed. In fact, this paper here isn't that yellow, but when you look at it through this plastic, it looks not so great. All right, so this is model M8EZ. ORA Electronics is the manufacturer. Computer accessories. The ModuNet registered trademark 2 system. 8-pin mini DIN, AppleTalk compatible. Fully AppleTalk compatible, everything you need to connect your Apple computer, PowerPC, Performa, etc., or peripheral to an AppleTalk network. There's a picture of what looks like a Macintosh 2CI, the extended keyboard, a mouse, and this very nice Apple monitor. That's the Sony picture tube. On the bottom on the front, we keep the world connected, trademark, and a lifetime warranty. I wonder if I can get this thing replaced if it doesn't work. On the back, it talks a little bit about AppleTalk, so you may not be familiar with it. And we'll take a look at Wikipedia in a second, but basically this is a little spec sheet here. It transmits data over 5,000 feet and up to 1 megabit per second. Use economical telephone cabling to network up to 32 devices. Fully AppleTalk compatible. Supports all network topologies. Simple plug-and-play installation. Down here it says exclusive to the ModuNet 2 are 2 diagnostic LEDs. These LEDs flash at every signal transmission for foolproof installation and reconfiguration. You no longer have to worry whether information is being transmitted. If the connector is not flashing during a data transmission, an error has been detected. Ooh. Here's something that's pretty important. It says that this comes with a terminator for fast, convenient, error-free termination. So AppleTalk is based on the RS422 standard, which allows multiple devices to be connected to a serial bus, but you do need to terminate the ends. The original AppleTalk devices automatically terminated the RS422 bus that this thing uses, but with these phone-style ones, you actually had to connect a terminator, and I'm glad this included one because I definitely don't have one. You need one on each end of the network. Here's ORA Electronics, a division of Alliance Research Corporation, and they have a website here, orausa.com, and they're from Chatsworth, California. This has a date of 1996. All right, so this does open up, and inside there's some more text. A little thing interesting about the warranty, it is not valid once a transfer of ownership has happened. So I guess a donation to mail call counts as a transfer of ownership. So darn, I can't apply for that lifetime warranty. It does also say I need to have a receipt to show that the warranty is still void, and I don't have one of those, of course. Here's a little bit of information that's going to be important for me in a second I'm going to be testing. You must always connect the ModuNet 2 to the printer port, not the modem port. I think on the Macintosh, really it's only the printer port that either is wired up for this or is supported at least in the system software to be used with AppleTalk. And here's a little example of an AppleTalk network. So like I had mentioned, the terminators have to go on each end, and this topology goes machine to machine to machine. So this has 3 machines. It has a printer and 2 Macintosh computers. And this is one of the end nodes, and so is this. So those would require terminators. And this is one of the middle nodes, and it would have 2 connections into it. There are 2 RJ11 phone jacks on every single one of these little boxes, which is also the same as Apple's original AppleTalk devices. Those little boxes had 2 proprietary, I think, 4-pin or 5-pin DIN connectors on them. All right, so here's the ModuNet II system. So there are the 2 LEDs that it talks about for diagnostics. Ooh, very fancy. ModuNet, it doesn't have that 2 branding on it, which is interesting. This is just the standard mini DIN serial port connection that will go into the printer port on the Macintosh. It would fit into the modem port, though. They're both the same connector. This connector was introduced on the Macintosh Plus as the first machine to have it. The 2GS also used these same connectors, as well as every Macintosh after that had serial ports. Eventually, I discontinued, I don't know when, sometime in the PowerPC era. Here are the 2 RJ11 connectors that are on this PhoneNet adapter. Inside, there are 4 conductors, and they gave us a nice length of phone wire. Oh, and look at this. Here's the little terminator that was included with it. So it's just an RJ11, and it has a resistor connected into a couple of the conductors. It looks like the 2 outside conductors are used for the data transmission. And looking at this phone wire, there's nothing to it. It's just a standard regular telephone cord, and it's with 4 conductors. And RJ11 does support up to 6, but there are 4 because that is much more typical for analog phones at the time. So when Michael emailed me and said he had one of these adapters and he was going to donate it to me, I was really excited because I actually have one of these, which is a Farallon PhoneNet adapter. My father was using these with his Macintoshes back when he ran his desktop publishing business. He actually started with a Mac Plus and an Apple LaserWriter printer, and they were connected with AppleTalk. And I'm pretty sure he had the original Apple branded boxes. But then later, he ended up getting some more computers, and he had them all hooked up to that same laser printer using AppleTalk. It was amazing for that early in the 80s for sharing printers and files between machines. So when he ended up giving me his old original Macintosh Plus, this was included with it. And just unfortunately, I just had one of these. So with one, that's not enough to complete a network. But with 2, I can actually try networking out. Let's take a look at Wikipedia on AppleTalk. So AppleTalk was released in 1985 and was the primary protocol used by Apple devices through the 1980s and 1990s. It says here that they released a version for the PC, and of course the Apple IIgs also included it. AppleTalk support was available in most network printers, especially laser printers, some file servers, and a number of routers. It seems that AppleTalk was finally discontinued in OS X 10.6. So this is really the key takeaway to what AppleTalk is. So when Apple was developing the Macintosh, they made a decision to use the Zilog 8530 serial controller chip. And this is different than the one that's in PCs, which is usually a 8250 or a 16550 UART. It costs about $5 more than the UART, but it allowed for high speeds up to 250 kilobits per second. And additionally, because it's not just regular RS-232, it's RS-422, it allows multiple devices to be attached to the same port at the same time. It seems that somewhere around 1985, Apple renamed Apple Bus to AppleTalk. They also introduced the speed limit of 230.4 kilobits per second with a 1,000-foot end-to-end distance, that's total cabling length, and 32 nodes per LAN. But of course, because every Macintosh had this serial controller chip in it, all you need to do was add a $50 adapter box. This was the Apple branded one. At the time, if you needed networking, you had to buy an Ethernet or token ring card, which of course cost a lot of money. Not to mention, it was something you had to add into the computer as an expansion card, which the Macintosh Plus didn't even support. Additionally, look here, it says the entire network stack only required 6K of RAM, allowing it to run on any Mac. That's pretty cool. Now it says here, instead of using the regular RS-422 balanced transmit and receive circuits, AppleTalk used a single common electrical ground, which limited speeds to about 500 kilobits per second, but allowed one conductor to be removed. Now I know with this PhoneNet thing, they actually did away with even that third conductor and it only uses 2 conductors. It also says here that the original Apple adapters were designed to be self-terminating, so you didn't need to plug a terminator into the end of the bus like you do with this PhoneNet. I think this part is pretty key right here. So the main advantage of AppleTalk is it was completely maintenance free. So to join a device to the network, you simply plug the adapter into the machine, connected a cable to any free port on any other adapter, and the AppleTalk internal protocol negotiated a working network address number and gave the computer a human-readable name, collected up a list of names and other types of machines on the network so the user could browse the devices through the GUI-based chooser. So they mentioned PhoneNet in this article, a thriving third-party market for AppleTalk devices developed over the next few years. One particularly notable example was an alternative adapter designed by BMUG and commercialized by Farallon as PhoneNet in 1987. This was essentially a replacement for AppleTalk's connector that had conventional phone jacks instead of Apple's round connectors. PhoneNet allowed AppleTalk networks to be connected using normal telephone wires and with very little extra work could run analog phones and AppleTalk on a single 4-conductor cable. Yes, PhoneNet only uses 2 wires and an analog phone line uses the other 2, which is how you could have both on the same wire. It does mention here that there were some other adapters that allowed up to 1 megabit per second using external clocks. And actually this ModuNet II adapter, remember on the paperwork mentioned 1 megabit. So perhaps this is one of those systems that can go faster, but I'm assuming we need special drivers or modified system files to make that work. So I found an original user guide to PhoneNet, which is pretty handy actually because it talks about how this all works. So a very simple AppleTalk topology, of course, is a machine on the end and a machine on the end. Notice it's saying terminator and resistor on both ends, and then these machines are hooked up. There's a PC, 2 Macs, and a laser printer. Here it's talking about the 2 versions of PhoneNet adapters that were available. So there's the version with the DIN, which is what I have for the SE, Mac 2, Mac Plus, 2GS, 2E with AppleTalk option, ImageWriter 2 with AppleTalk option. But there's another version of the PhoneNet adapter that has a DB9 on it for use on the 128, 512, and 512KE. It seems to indicate here that there are several topologies available, daisy chain being the most simple with the terminator on each end and each thing just connected to each other. But it looks like it supported trunk and star and combinations and active star. And all you couldn't do is you did not want to loop the network like Token Ring where you had a final connection here. So that would mean if you disconnected one of these connectors on the AppleTalk network, the entire network goes down, as opposed to having some redundancy, being able to go 2 separate paths. Here's a diagram showing PhoneNet coexisting with analog telephone lines over the same 4-conductor wall cable. So you could actually use existing wiring in your house because pretty much every analog phone wire ever installed in North America was 4-conductor in the wall. But phones only ever use 2 cables. So if you had this wiring in your house, you could tap right into it and then hook up your machines to create a little impromptu network in your house without having to do any extra work. Oh, now this is interesting. It seems that PhoneNet or someone actually made a PhoneNet to AppleTalk mini DIN 3 plug cable. So you could interface your AppleTalk existing devices with PhoneNet. So I suppose this is probably what my father did because he originally had a Mac Plus and a laser writer hooked up with AppleTalk, and then he ended up with more machines, and he probably had this interface cable so these additional machines could use the much cheaper PhoneNet adapters. So I have these 2 adapters connected. I'm using the phone wire that my father gave me, not this longer one. That doesn't matter. It's the same kind of cable. And I guess I just need to find 2 computers to try this out on. Here are 2 Macintosh computers. This is a Mac Classic 2 inside a Mac Classic case. This is a Mac Plus. Both of these are ones I repaired in the Mac Repairathon. So on a Macintosh Plus or later, you simply just have to plug your AppleTalk or PhoneNet adapter into the printer port. On the Mac Plus, I'm going to go into Chooser, and this is running System 6, but AppleTalk worked on earlier Macintoshes, and I'm going to turn on, oh, look how it's called Desk Writer. That's weird. I'm going to turn on AppleTalk. Please make sure you're connected to AppleTalk Network. Okay, I guess I am. And we're going to click Apple Share. And theoretically, if this were working, I think I should see the other computer in this list here. On the Mac Classic, we are going to go under Chooser and make sure that AppleTalk is turned on. So Apple Share is on. And in the control panel, there's something called Sharing Setup, which I've already gone in here. And yep, I've typed in Adrian Black, Stealth Classic 2, and program linking is turned on. So I'd assume this is sharing the hard drive, though I'm not too sure. I may have to go read a tutorial on how to do this. Okay, I realize on the Mac Classic here, I go into users and group, it shows my username, but it should show file sharing right here, and it's not. So I must be missing a file extension or something like that to enable this. So that's probably why it's not working right now. So I need to go figure out how to get this working, and then I will retest this to see if then I see file server on the Mac Plus here. All right, I've sorted out the file sharing problems. It was entirely an issue with not having the right files on the system. So now we're ready to demonstrate file sharing. So the Mac Classic 2 here has System 7.1 on it, and the Mac Plus is running System 6.07. The Mac Plus is running off the zip drive, while the Classic 2 is running off the internal hard drive. Okay, let's get this all set up and working. So on the Classic 2, the first thing you need to do is go to Chooser, which allows you to pick your printer or whatnot, and we're going to pick Apple Share. Actually, no, we're not going to pick anything. We're just going to make sure that AppleTalk is active on this machine. It needs to be set that way on both computers. Next, we go to the control panel. And in the control panel, you open up Sharing Setup. So in here, you set up your network identity. So the owner name, I just put my first name, and the machine name. You can put a password here or not. And then you need to start the file sharing. And it's going to tell you, I'm going to start without a password. That's not recommended, but come on. Who's going to be hacking into my AppleTalk network with a phone wire? No one. So we're going to hit continue, and I'm going to turn on program linking. And what program linking allows you to do is run programs from the other machine over AppleTalk. And you open up users and groups, which is another control panel. And it automatically created Adrian because of that owner name I typed in. And in here we configure what that user is able to do across the network. So we're going to allow it to connect, change the password, see the entire disk. I guess you can create some groups. We're going to turn on to program linking as well for that user. And that's it. We're going to close out. Do we want to save changes? Yes, we do. And we're going to leave the computer running just like that. All right, here we are on the Mac Plus. So we're going to go to Chooser. It's going to look a little different, right? Because this is System 6. Now, in here on System 6, you type your username into the Chooser area. So I'm going to put Adrian, so it's the same name as on the other machine. I'm going to hit active, and it's going to say, make sure your AppleTalk network's connected. Well, it is. I have the little PhoneNet adapters connected. And then we're going to pick Apple Share. And check it out. Stealth Classic 2 is listed right there. We'll hit OK. Now it's going to say, you want to connect as a guest or registered user? Well, I'll just do registered user. My name was already typed in. There's no password. So we hit OK. And then look, it says, here's the volume you want to mount. You can check to say mounted every time you reboot, and you can save your name or the name and password. We'll just uncheck this because this is a zip disk, and I won't be mounting this every time I boot this zip disk. We hit OK. We close out of the Chooser, and look at that. Right here, Macintosh HD. I should have renamed the hard drive on the other computer, but if I open this, this is actually everything that's on the other computer. So this is on the zip disk itself. I have ZTerm, True Basic, and Logo. Let's look at what programs are available on the other computer. And so I have HyperCard, Logo, ZTerm, True Basic, and I have Word 4.0. So say I want to copy Word 4.0 from the other computer onto the zip drive. So I'm just going to drag it here to the application folder, and look up here. You have little arrows next to the Apple logo there, and that shows that it's actually copying across the network, or it's reading and writing across the network. Now on the other computer, you actually can't tell anything is happening. It doesn't have a little indicator icon, but I'm pretty sure if we go to the control panel here, oh, it's very sluggish. Look how the mouse pointer is sort of jerky and moving around in a strange way. So clearly sending stuff across AppleTalk is definitely consuming a lot of CPU power over here. So we go to File Sharing Monitor, and this is on the Mac Classic 2, which is serving the files to the Mac Plus, and we should be able to see connected users, and look at that, file sharing activity, and it's sort of bouncing around as it copies Microsoft Word across the AppleTalk network. So this copy process is going quite slow, and because both of these systems are running completely stock and unmodified Apple system software, I'm pretty sure this is copying at the usual AppleTalk 230 kilobits per second, which is about 20 kilobytes a second or so, which of course copying about 1 point something megabytes here isn't going to be super fast. So I'm accessing the AppleTalk network, and as you can see, these LEDs are blinking. Now it's blinking pretty dimly because I think there's not a lot of power available to drive them, but that's interesting that does seem to indicate there's some activity, which I suppose is helpful in some regard. It's not like this shows a link light or anything like that, so you can't tell you're connected, but while activity is going on, they do blinky. Okay, and I'm copying a file from this machine over to the Mac now, and look at how the mouse pointer gets so slow and stops moving properly, and it kind of does it on both. And I think if I hold down a menu, what if I hold down this menu? Oh, it does keep copying. So obviously whatever process is running for the AppleTalk is actually happening kind of in the background or whatever on this machine. Primitive multi-threading perhaps? So this is awesome. Michael, thank you for sending in this ModuNet adapter. I'm really pleased that it's compatible with the PhoneNet adapter I already had, and now I'm able to actually copy files across between two machines pretty easily here. Now I have to say, AppleTalk networking really impresses me. It's not so much that it was the first networking technology available of its kind that was cheap, but it's that it's so easy to use, and it mounts a drive on the desktop and shares printers pretty much like you do today on current computers. Now I'm not super familiar with EcoNet on the BBC Micro. I haven't actually used that myself, but I can't imagine it was as user-friendly and easy to use as this, where you could simply mount a hard drive and see it as if it was on your computer, copy files to and from. And also, you could take an image writer 2 or a laser printer and network attach them to the AppleTalk network and allow all your machines to print to them super easily. There's undoubtedly a ton about AppleTalk I didn't talk about in this video, so check the link in the description below. I'll put a link to that Wikipedia article, and you can read up from there on all the other cool things you could do with AppleTalk. I hope everyone enjoyed this video. If you did, you can hit that thumbs up button, but if you didn't, hit that thumbs down button. You can hit subscribe if you want to subscribe to my channel, and of course that bell icon. If you click that, it'll notify you when I upload new videos. Put your comments or suggestions in the comment section below, and that's going to be it. Stay healthy, stay safe, and thanks for watching. Goodbye.